All right, shalom, shalom. I want to start off with giving all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Wadash. I want to say and give double honors to the apostles and the bishop elders of Great Millstone for teaching us this word in truth and sincerity and for ruling well. And salutations to my fellow Akim across the four corners of the globe, preaching and prophesying who also fear in the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Shalom to the elect. Hey, I'm my brother Gabar Yahweh from JMS Hawaii, coming to you with another lesson. And this lesson is my response to Vocab Malone's video entitled Ephesians 2 Defeats Israelites on the Corner. Okay, and he says right here, he says GMS Cleveland misused Ephesians 2 as the coming together of the North and South Israel. So we jumped on it. Text plainly reads Jews and Gentiles, right? And so, which I didn't hear those brothers say that. I'm sure he might have put something together, and we're gonna listen to a little bit of it. I'm not gonna play the whole video. It's only 11 minutes and 53 seconds, but I kind of want to focus on the effects that Hellenism has had on our people, and what it did to our nation, okay, and what it did to our nation was further divide us, because during the time of the Apostle Paul, during the time of Yahweh Shai, right, you had Israelites that were still remaining in Israel. Not every Israelite was deported. Not every Israelite came back out of Babylon to help rebuild the temple. Not every Israelite came from anywhere we were scattered at in the known world at that particular time. And even the Northern Kingdom, which were here in America, right? But that what the Lord was bringing together was the Israelites that were strange or strangers to the Commonwealth of Israel, right? You had Israelites scattered amongst the world. And Yahweh Shai, when he came, he went directly to his people, to the Jews first. Scriptures, I think, let me see if I can find that. Let me see if I can find it. Just bear with me. I found it. This is the book of Romans chapter 1, verse 16, right? And this is Paul speaking to the Israelites in Rome, all right, to the church in Rome, all right? So it says Romans 1 and 13. It says, "Now I would not have you ignorant, brethren, that oftentimes I purposed to come unto you, but was let hitherto." It says, "that I might have some fruit among you also, even among other Gentiles." I'm sorry. I'll keep reading. Even among other Gentiles, right? Or other Hellenists, because you had the Jakes in Rome were Romanized, if that's a word, right? And they were Hellenized too, right? You had Israelites waking up out of that Roman stupor, right? Because Paul's ministry was chiefly to the Gentiles, right? Let me keep on reading. It says, but he also preached to the Jews too. But his primary work was to the Israelites that were being called Gentiles. Okay, because we hear this word Gentiles, and the first thing Christians like Vocab Malone want to bring up is have you thinking that that's just any heathen in any other nation. They don't even mention the other nations in regards to how they fit in with the so-called Gentiles, right? They just melt it all together. But the Israelites that were scattered abroad, worshiping these idols of the other nations, copying their culture, taking on their cultures and everything that came with it, chiefly idolatry, were Gentiles, right? That's what made us Gentiles, right? That's what separated us. And it happened over generations. So whereas you had a generation that knew they were Israelites, eventually they weren't brought up in the Israelitish way, and they left it, all right? They left that way. So their children were brought up, just like us in this world, all right? We were brought up in these different religions, Christianity, Islam, whatever. Mainly those two religions here in America. Those are the most prominent ones. But you got Jake in every religion, right? But that's what we thought was the worship of God, the one we even call God and Jesus, right? We thought that was the way, and it wasn't. This is 1 Corinthians 12 and 1. It says, "Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant. ye know that ye were Gentiles, carried away unto these dumb idols, even as you were led. And the word Gentile morphed into the word pagan over time. So it says right here in the NLT, you know that when you were still pagans, ye were led astray and swept along in worshiping speechless idols. And that's what made us Gentiles, right? So Vocab Malone wants to say, well, no, well, those pagans were just regular people from different nations that when Yahushua sacrificed his life on that cross and was risen, that there was no more separation between the heathen and the natural heathens and the Israelites or the Jews. That's what they call the Jews, right? Right? And he believes in the Jewish people, right? But that's not the case. There was no separation between the Israelites that were in a Gentile state of mind and the Israelites that they knew they were Israelites, meaning growing up in the customs. That's what that means, all right? And I'm going to prove it, right? Because that's what made us Gentiles. And you look up that word for Gentiles, the word for Gentile is ethnos, all right? Because there's different words for Gentile. You got Helen, I believe you have Hellenistas, and then you also have ethnos. So ethnos is a what? It says Gentiles, nation, heathen, right? It says a multitude, whether of men or beasts, associated. God damn. Salakia about that. So it says a multitude, whether of men or beasts, associated living together, a company of truth. This is the point right here. A multitude of individuals of the same nature or genus, right? And then it says the human family. No, that's not. It's not about the human family. It says a tribe and nation of people, a group. It says in the Old Testament, foreign nations not worshiping the true God, pagans, Gentiles. Paul uses the term Gentiles, Christians, right? So Paul never used the term Gentile Christians because that's English. He didn't use that words, right? But this goes back to Israelites that were of the same tribes and nation, and our people were scattered. And I take it to note that Vocab Malone, he doesn't understand the emphasis of the scattering of our people. No matter how many times we break it down, no matter how many responsive videos we break it out, no matter how many times we go through the scriptures and we go to the prophets, we go to the apostles and show him that, look, bro, well, he's not our brother, but look, James 1:1, right? It says, James, a servant of the Most High and of the Lord, Yahushua Mashiach, to the 12 tribes which were scattered abroad. Greetings, because we were scattered. It says, this letter is from James, the slave of the Most High and of our Lord, Yahushua Mashiach. I'm writing to the 12 tribes. It says Jewish believers. Nobody's no Jewish believers. It's the 12 tribes, believers scattered abroad. Greetings, man. Right? It says, this is better. And in NIV, it says, James, a servant of the Most High and of our Lord, Yahushua Mashiach, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations. Greetings, right? And this is the NIV. So what do you think is going to happen to a people that scattered amongst nations? Well, they were going to forget who they were by following after these pagan customs, by following after these traditions that they created. And over time, they're having children growing up in these different distant lands, and they move further and further away from their nationality. But when the word was preached unto them, some of them believed. A lot of them believed. All right? So you had Israelites scattered abroad, and he doesn't understand this. No matter, like I said, no matter how many times we break it down to him, no matter how many times we try to make it as plain as possible for him to understand, you know, that salvation and that all of these words written are exclusive to the Israelites. And at one point, we were in a Gentile state of mind. We didn't know who we were. We were just like our forefathers in the ancient world. Right? We weren't brought up in the ways of being an Israelite. We didn't worship Yahweh Shai. We didn't eat the food. We didn't eat foods that were clean to Yahweh Shai. Most of us grew up eating abominable foods, thinking it was just a natural way. You know, we wear our customs from the tattoos to the clothing, all of that, we don't wear it because we've been in captivity so long. But just like in the ancient world, when you had Jews that heard the word and that believed, then they turned back to their ways and their customs. Some of us still had bald heads. Some of us had tattoos on us, right? Because we lived in these lands. We came out of these places, all right? And so, like I said, I want to kind of focus on the effects that Hellenism has had. And I know a lot of people don't watch videos like when I do videos like this. It's not me. It's the spirit of Yahweh Shai jumping on me to respond. You know, but these, like Jake, you got to know your history, bro. Like a lot of Jakes, they just watch these videos for the contention's sake, for the controversy. You know, you watch it, you know, to cuss out. You know, that's part of contention and controversy, cussing out the white man and Eve. You know what I'm saying? And you only respond to captions or thumbnails that got an ass in it. You know what I'm saying? But bro, like, history is great. Even Elder Ariala said that. He said that at the camp on Friday. You know, you get a lot of Jakes when they were in high school. They didn't listen in the history class. They were listening to music. They were bullshitting. But me personally, I always love history, bro, because it connects us to the past. It connects the present to the past, right? And you get an understanding of it. And I know a lot of it can be ambiguous. A lot of it can be cumbersome researching. But bro, like, you got to know your history, man. And you got to understand that Jakes weren't always following our natural customs because we've been scattered amongst these nations. And this is the word that we're bringing. Okay? So, this is back in Romans chapter 1, verse 13 again. Now, I would not have you ignorant, brethren, that oftentimes I purposed to come unto you, but was let hitherto, that I might have some fruit among you also, even as among other Gentiles. And I am debtor both to the Greeks and to the barbarians, both to the wise and the unwise. Right? Now let's look up those words, the Greeks and to the barbarians, and see what it says right there. And in NIV it says, I am obligated both to Greeks and non-Greeks, both to the wise and to the foolish. In the NLT, for I have great sense of obligation to people in both the civilized world and the rest of the world, to the educated and uneducated, right? That word for Greek right there is Helen. So now we go from ethnos to Helen, right? So when you look up the word Helen, it says a Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies. And Israel became a colony, all right, which they call it Judea back then. Or Yahweh, they didn't call it Judea, it was Yahweh, all right, or Yahweh, right? That's what they called it. Or Ayuda, right? You name it. But it was a colony, and it became Hellenized. And other places where Hellenism spread, that you had Israelites there, like even in Egypt, right? You had Alexandrian Jews. They were Hellenized. It's the reason why the Septuagint was created, because you had Greek-speaking Israelites following after their customs, but they spoke Greek. They didn't speak Hebrew, right? This is in the wider sense. Name embraces all nations, not Jews, that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own. And it happened to Jews. The primary reference is the difference of religion and worship. Our people, their worship and their religion was that of the heathens. This is why Paul was speaking to Jakes in Antioch. This is why he was going back and forth with those men on Mars Hill. Okay? So going back into the precept, says verse 15, so as much as in me is, I am ready to preach the gospel to you that are at Rome also. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Hamashiach, for it is the power of the Most High unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. For therein is the righteousness of the Most High revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. Because it went to the Jews first, because that preaching of the Messiah was preached to the Jews first. Israelites that they knew that they were Israelites, grew up in the customs, were part of the Commonwealth. But then that same blessing goes to the Israelites that were scattered, right? To the Israelites that were scattered amongst the nations at the known word at the time, being called Greeks. All right? You got this in the book of John 7:35. This book of John, even during the Yahushai's time, they knew about the Israelites that were scattered. This is John 7:34. Ye shall seek me and shall not find me, and where I am, thither ye cannot come. Then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles to teach the Gentiles? Now, Vocab Malone seeing this, saying, look, it says Gentiles and teaching Gentiles. So that means all nations, right? No, that's not the case. In the NLT, it says the Jewish leader also puzzled by the statement, where is he planning to go? They ask, is he thinking of leaving the country and going to the Jews in other lands? Maybe even to teach the Greeks. There it is. You had Jews in other lands. You had Jews that weren't being called Jews no more. They preferred to be called Greeks. That's the same thing you had with Timothy and his father. Okay? So I typed this up. But Timothy, the father, was a Greek, because that's in Acts 16:1. Right? It says Timothy's father was a Greek Gentile while his mother was a Jewish believer. Now when you read that right here, it says the emphasis in the New Testament is that Timothy was taught, was a believer, and had a Greek father, had a Greek name, right? He was called Timotheus. He grew up with a Greek name. He grew up speaking Greek, right? And his father was an Israelite who spoke Greek. I'm sure he had a Greek name too. Was not circumcised. And why was he not circumcised? Because that was a law that was passed by the Greek ruler Antiochus Epiphanes IV. And that was the custom of the Greeks, not to circumcise your penis. You even had Israelites getting surgeries to sew on foreskin, fake foreskin, so that they can look uncircumcised, because that was the thing, right? Therefore, Timothy did not worship as a Jew, right? Because the Jews, they knew that on the 8th day you got circumcised. They spoke Hebrew. They believed in they followed our customs and manners. And Timothy didn't grow up like that. Timothy did not worship as a Jew. His mother was a Jewish woman who believed. So she was a woman, an Israelite woman. His father was an Israelite too, but he was a Greek. But she was an Israelite woman who believed. And who did she believe in? The Messiah, Yahweh Shem Yahushua. But his father was a Greek. It implied that his father was not a believer. Right, his father didn't believe. Like today, we got parents that don't believe. Some of us got parents that do believe. Right? I got a father, he don't believe in the truth. I told him the truth, but he don't take my word for it, you know? You see? So, but the point of the matter is this was happening. Now, I also typed this up. Who was Paul's preaching to during his ministry? Right? And then, right, this is the first one I got. They continued traveling, going by Berea and then to Athens, where Paul preached to the Jews and God-fearing Greeks in the synagogue and in the Greek and into the Greek intellectuals and Areopagus. Right? Then I typed this, because this is what I was looking for. Did Paul preach to the Jews that were scattered? And it says right here, while Peter's ministry to the Jews was primarily focused in Jerusalem and Judea, Paul's ministry to the Jews was mainly to those Jews who were dispersed. Here in Rome, Paul directed his message to the Jews first for the last time. And because after that, he started preaching the Gentiles, the Israelites that were scattered, the Jews that were scattered. That's who he was preaching to, right? A lot of these people, they try to use, these Christians, they try to use Paul as like the doorway for all nations. And even when these nations call themselves following after what you call Christianity today, it's still not it's not the right way. It's not the truth, right? The Lord said, I am the same today, and yes, I am the same as today as yesterday. I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed, man, or destroyed. Okay, the Lord kept talking about his people, but eventually we were scattered. And you read it in Ezekiel, you read it in Isaiah, you read it all throughout the scriptures, how we were scattered. We didn't, every time we went into captivity, everybody didn't come back home. A lot of people stayed where they was at or kept it moving. You know? But you had those devout Israelites that said, no, we're going to go back home. We're going to follow our customs. This is the reason why you had the whole deal with the Maccabees, right? It says Jewish life. So I typed this up. How did Hellenism affect Jews in the diaspora? It says Hellenism influenced Jewish life in the diaspora in many ways, including culture, religion, and society. It says most Jews accepted Greek influence, paying taxes, joining the army, holding state positions. However, they also wanted to be free to practice their religion, which led to the emergence of a reform movement. The movement was started by the Jewish elite and had secular, economic, and intellectual aspects. In religion, Jews began to believe in life after death, which we always knew that we know that there's a spirit world, but it got to a point where the concept of life after death was taught via the heathens, because it tells you in the scriptures that, and I think it's Proverbs, I think it might be Proverbs, or no, Ecclesiastes, Salakia. It teaches you in Ecclesiastes that all go to one place, and they speak about it in Job too, right? So anyway, it says the Jews began to believe in life after death, a concept that had been part of Greek culture for centuries. They also formed groups with distinct religious perspectives, similar to the private associations that were common in Hellenistic society. So they started groups, private groups, same thing Jake is doing today. Culture. The conquest of Judea by Alexander the Great led to the blending of local and Greek cultures. Jews adopted Greek literary forms, writing plays, poems, more in the Greek language. They also embraced the Greek emphasis on beauty and physical culture, right? Jewish life in both Judea and the diaspora was influenced by the culture and language of Hellenism. Local indigenous elites frequently played a significant role in embracing and promoting Hellenism. And it's the same thing that you have today. You got the elites of our people. They push people into that Americanism. I'm American. I'm proud to be American. You got these dudes standing on top of a hill talking about the American way and American way of life. They ain't trying to hear that they're Israelites. They don't care. Leading to its impact on regional cultures, including Jewish culture. So Hellenism had a grave impact on our people and on our nation. Okay? So when we go to Ephesians and we read, he started Ephesians 14, but this is a good chapter to read because this chapter is speaking to the Israelites at Ephesus that believe, right? And it giving them understanding that, look, the Lord is bringing us back together. All right? So let's go to Ephesians 2 and 14. Matter of fact, I'll start at 8. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is a gift of the Most High. Exactly. Faith is a gift from the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shem Shah. And you can't pick it up off the street. It has to be given to you. Not of works, lest any man should boast, right? Because you had Israelites that were boasting in the law. But even they weren't keeping the law 100%. But they were boasting in it. So they were like, oh, look, I did all these works, so I'm good. Because, like, we had no concept of hell. We knew it was a spirit world. Everybody, all of us knew that there's a spirit world, right? But there was no concept of, like, what you call heaven and hell. The spirit world is a heaven. It's the fourth heaven. But outside of that, it's like Jake just, we didn't even view death the way the heathen viewed death, right? Because we knew that it was just the next phase into going back to the spirit world, resting, and then being reborn back again, right? So anyway, but you did have groups of Israelites that didn't believe in the spirit world. They didn't believe in the resurrection. They didn't believe in regeneration. You had some that did, right? But anyway, not of works, lest any man should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Hamashiach Yahushai unto good works, which the Most High have before ordained that we should walk in them. Wherefore remember that ye being in times past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision. And that's what made us Gentiles, because we weren't circumcised. And we were following the customs of the way of the Gentiles, by that which is called the circumcision. So you had Israelites that were circumcised. And this is before we talk about being circumcised in the mind, because that's the most important one. But you had Israelites that knew that they're Israelites, born in our customs, and they were circumcised, but they called us uncircumcision. It says, wherefore remember that ye being in times past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands. That at that time ye were without Hamashiach. So when we were following the customs of the heathens, we were without Yahushua, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel. That's the point. You had Israelites that were alienated from the commonwealth of Israel. So if we showed up, we couldn't go through our history and lineage and show them where our father is. They could do that in Israel, right? If we showed up looking like this, tattoos on our face, on our bodies, bald heads, long hair, you know what I'm saying? They look at us like we were foreign to them, speaking another language. To them, we're heathens. But in reality, we were Israelites that were trapped in captivity in these other places, man. But we believe in strangers from the covenant of the promise, having no hope and without the Most High in the world. And that's what we were, even in this lifetime. Prior to knowing the truth, we were without the Most High in the world. We were without hope. Me and the bros always talk about that. In the world, we ain't had no hope in the world. We was through, man. But when we found Yahweh Bashim Shah, heard his word, when he found us and we heard his word, now we were found again. But now in Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, ye who sometimes were far off are made nigh by the blood of Hamashiach. For he is our peace, who have made both one and have broken down the middle wall of partition between us. And this is what Vocab Malone is trying to break down via his seminary education, right? But that wall was broken down because you had more Israelites scattered outside of Israel than lived in Israel. I had a video, but I ended up exiting it out. But in the video, it said that in Alexandria, Egypt, you had the biggest population of Israelites in the world, or Jews in the world. More Jews lived outside of Israel than in Israel. You know what I'm saying? You had Jews that lived outside of Israel that knew who they were, that came back. You can read Acts chapter 2, verse 6 on down. Shoot, you can really start at 1. You had Israelites that knew they were Israelites, but they were speaking other languages. And they would come every so often to Israel to worship for the high holy days, but then they would go back home. Right? But then you also, what happened to some of them? What happened to their children? If their children weren't brought up in a way, they end up acting like the heathens and getting further and further away from their customs. Okay? Going back to Ephesians, right? It says, for he is our peace, who have made both one and have broken down the middle wall of partition between us, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of the commandments contained in ordinance, for to make in himself of twain one new man, and so making peace. And when we come to Yahweh Bashim Shai, we are new, and we have made peace with the Lord. In the NLT it says, he did this by ending the system of the law with its commandments and regulations, which he didn't end the system in the law and the commandments and the regulations. He didn't do that. But it wasn't a thing that you was going to be justified and saved by the law, right? It was really leaning more on your faith. And in your faith, you start practicing the law. Because we're foreign, bro. And in our captive state, we can barely keep all the commandments, but that doesn't mean we negate the commandments. That don't mean that we ignore the commandments. Nah. But it was like, listen, Yahweh Shai basically said, man, they Israelites too, bro. And this blessing and this word of the gospel and this salvation is for them too. And the Lord did say that he was going to be what? He was going to make Judah jealous with no people, right? Let me see. Oh, man. Yep. Romans 10:19. But I say, did not Israel know? First Moses said, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you. And that's us. Because we ain't a part of these nations. Truly, we weren't a part of these nations. We might have been imitating them, doing the things they did, and following their customs, but that didn't make us one of them. And then even our own people that was living in our land, living at home in Israel, primarily the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, they weren't accepting it. So we were like a no people. And even in this world today, we're like the same thing. We are considered as a no people because we ain't truly Americans here, right? And we damn sure ain't African, right? You go to Africa, you ain't Spanish. You can't. You're not American. You're not Spanish. You Northern Kingdom try to go to Spain, man, they look crazy at you, man. You try to speak that language over there, they look crazy at you, man. Like you speaking Ebonics or something. So you're not Spanish and you're not Americans. Then who are you? We're the Israelites. But this is how the Lord provoked Judah by that, but no people who were Gentiles, right? Right? Gentile Israelites. NLT, but I asked, did the people of Israel really understand? Yes, they did. For even in the time of Moses, the Heavenly Father said, I will arouse your jealousy through people who are not even a nation. I will provoke your anger through the foolish Gentiles, man. And that foolish Gentiles was us, the Israelites, man, scattered abroad. And we weren't even a nation, man. Shit, even today, right now, Jake is all over the place, bro. These nations don't look at the so-called Negro, Latino, Native American, some of India, and people that go back to us on their forefathers' side as us as one people. They don't see it that way. And we have children with women of other nations, and the kids look like the mothers and stuff. You know what I'm saying? They grew up thinking that they're white. Some grew up thinking that they're white. Some grew up thinking that they're Chinese. Some thinking they Japhet out here like the Rock. This nigga really, he leaned hardcore on his Japhetic side, which is his mother's side, which she's a heathen. But he never leans on his father's side, which his father is a Judite. And a Rock has children that looks less and less like Israelites, man. You see? But guess what? They're Israelites. Another great example is what's this dude named Patrick Mahomes and his family. Right? I saw a brand new look. Right? This is his father. Hold on. No, this is good right here. This is Patrick Mahomes, right? And this is this is good too. This is Patrick Mahomes. This is Patrick Mahomes. This is wife. This is mom. This is little brother. And this is dad. His dad is a nigga, a straight up what you would call a nigga. You know, but guess what? He was a former Major League Baseball player and a star at that. Right? But he married a so-called white woman. So his kids grew up looking like, you know, a cross between him and his wife. So they look light-skinned. But then this dude ended up marrying a Edomite woman. Well, she could be a Jake, who knows? But let's just say for conversation's sake, she's an Edomite, right? So he married a Edomitish woman, right? Now look at his children. This is what? 2 generations. That's all it says. It's 2 generations. It's really 3. 1, 2, and the children make 3. So there's 3 generations, bro. So he got a son and he got a daughter. Now these kids gonna grow up in a well-manicured life, living like Edomites. You feel me? Talking like Edomites, acting like Edomites. And then this little boy gonna grow up. If we had time here, he grew up and marry a woman that reminds him of his mother. He ain't gonna grow up and marry no Keisha, right? And then them kids will start looking like more and more like her, and they won't identify as so-called black. And if they do, you know, they'll probably be ostracized and made fun of. But in reality, these are Judites. These 1, 2, and 3 Judites, man. Same thing for Blake Griffin. And these kids, they're not growing up knowing that they're Israelites. He don't even know he's an Israelite. Or if he do, he definitely don't care. Right? So you would call them, if you didn't know any of this history about this dude's background, bro, you would call these are Gentiles. You'd be like, these are heathens. But they're not. These are Israelites. Judites. Right? I had mentioned the rock. Right? Because the rock got a couple of daughters. Yeah. Right here. Her mother is Puerto Rican. Her mom's is Puerto Rican. Right? Her mom's is Puerto Rican. But her dad is a Judite, with his mom being a Polynesian woman. I think she's a Samoan. Something like that, right? She looks like a fucking Samoan, but she's a nigga. This is a nigga woman. If she didn't look like this, would be a black woman. This is a Negro woman. But they hold fast to that Japhetic side. They got the hair going. You know, she looked like a Japhite, man. Then he got 2 more daughters that look Japhetic. But these are Judites. This is a Judite. Guess what? You didn't know no better. They're heathens. You call them heathens, man. You would be like, these are Gentiles. These are no Gentiles. They're Israelite. This is an Israelite girl. You know what I'm saying? But you would call them heathens. These would be considered no people if they didn't know. If they didn't know better. Even his oldest daughter, man. You know, she looked like a straight up Japhite, man. Moon head and all. But she's an Israelite, man. She's an Israelite, bro. So I just wanted to, you know, bring this out, man. I could read more in Ephesians, but the point of the matter is, Vocab Malone, this book is written to the Israelites, for the Israelites, by the Israelites, inspired by Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, the God of the Israelites. All right? And we are scattered amongst the world. And Paul was speaking to the Israelites scattered amongst Asia Minor. All right? Mainly Asia Minor area. All right? And he was speaking to Israelites that believed but were coming out of their Gentile way of life. Okay? So with that, I'm going to say shalom and on to the next.